The day after the Super Bowl is always the hardest day to get to work, but we appreciate you clicking us, a baseball podcast in a lockout. This is Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in, everybody. I'm Dominic Cotroneo. This is Locked On Brewers. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. With Vinny Rottino, former Milwaukee Brewer and now turned broadcaster, I'm Dominic Cotroneo, play-by-play broadcaster and Bally Sports statistician. So we've got a lot to talk about, Vinny. Of course, yesterday the Rams win the Super Bowl. Congrats to them. Feel for my man Joe Burrow, but we've got a lockout to talk about. We got an interesting question following the new rule that the designated hitter is coming to the National League officially, breaking down some of the complicated stuff with the CBA and the headlines that have come this week and what we expect moving forward for baseball here for the next 2 weeks or so here at the end of February. But Vinny, I'll just go straight over to you. How did you spend your weekend, and how did you watch? How did you think of the Super Bowl yesterday?
Well, normally, as usual, we just kind of hung low. We got the three little girls, ages 5, 4, and 2. So I mean, it's chaos at times, right? So we're just kind of trying to be in survival mode at the house here, my wife and I. But we watched the Super Bowl. We had a few friends and family over. It was a great game. I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see. I honestly didn't care who won the game. I just wanted to see an overtime situation. I thought it was, I don't know, you got to give the ball to Joe Burrow 2 times, I think. I don't know. I know we're not talking about the Super Bowl here, but I wanted to get your take on this. 3rd and 1, you got to go for it twice with Burrow, and they only, they gave it to Sam Perrine, who's a good running back, but I don't know. And then roll him out away from Aaron Donald. What do you got on that? Come on, Dom.
He was hurt, man. He had hurt his knee earlier in the game. I'm not going to get into it. Joe Burrow, that was his first ever elimination game that he's lost going back to college. Thinking about that. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, this isn't a football podcast. We're talking about baseball. Granted, there's obviously a weird time in baseball right now to talk about things. Big headlines since the last time we chatted, though, Vinny. Thursday was our last episode with the Throwback Thursday series. The finale, by the way, is this week, so don't miss that. But we had Rob Manfred speak to the media on Thursday, and the owners and MLB present a new proposal to the Players Association on Saturday. So we're going to catch up on all of that here right now. First and foremost, let's talk about Rob Manfred and the press conference he gave on Thursday. Mixed reviews, and I made the jab at him on Thursday of saying, hey, he's not very good at these things. He's made some very, very, I would just say non-conducive or just non-appealing comments to the players he represents as the commissioner of baseball in the past. This is tough with a lockout, and it's his job to do better in the lockout, and he admitted that. And he says, all of this falls on my shoulders, and he even said verbatim, it would be a grave mistake if we miss opening day. Now, is it posturing? Is it just negotiation tactics? Who knows? But at the same time, it was refreshing, and as much as we rip Rob Manfred as a fan base and as a fan of the sport, I give him kudos for going up there and taking it right on the chin, saying, this is on me. This is what I was hired to do, to negotiate this. I don't know what your takeaway was from that.
Yeah, I thought that was encouraging because usually in a negotiation, you don't want to give away your position of or any kind of you don't want to concede that you're not handling things well. I thought there was a little chink in his armor a little bit, a little crack there. The fact that he said that he needs to... This is his responsibility. He needs to do a better job of kind of protecting the game. That I don't know. I think that is a good sign that things are going to progress in the right direction. Now, the timing of this all, this all has to get done. It's my understanding that the timing of this has to all get done by March 1st in order for us not to miss opening day. And the players have to agree to when they want spring training to start and end. Right? That's all part of the CBA. So, I think the timing of this is a little concerning, but it sounds like they're both sides are willing to negotiate more so now than ever in this process, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, another thing that I was happy about is that all the reports leading up to this press conference was saying Rob Manfred is going to officially announce that spring training is delayed. Now, he stopped short of that, even though we can all look around and read the room. Here we are on Valentine's Day, February 14th, the week that pitchers and catchers are supposed to be reporting, and no one's reporting. We know that spring training is going to be delayed. He did not officially say, no, we're just gonna scrap it all down. He didn't say that. The status quo has not changed, is what he says. They expect to play baseball on opening day. No matter what, Evan Drellick and Ken Rosenthal write in The Athletic. I know a lot of people read that article. I got tagged in it a couple times. It's February 14th, okay? You still have time. Manfred wants a 4-week spring training. The players want a 4-week spring training. There's an agreement on that. Now, the players did not agree in this proposal. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but in the proposal brought forward by the owners said, here's a calendar. We need to negotiate on this calendar. Here's our day that we want to sign off on a deal by. And the players did not agree to that calendar. We don't know what was on it specifically, but you and I could infer March 1st, March 3rd, something like that would figure to when you have to have a deal by to make opening day if you want a 4-week spring training, because as we know, opening day is scheduled for March 31st. Again, as I've preached through this whole time, I know we're in the crunch time. We're in the 2-minute warning, if you will, of negotiations. There's still time. It's still February. Now, if you talk to me next week, and we're in the February 21st, that's when you're actually putting the pedal down and starting to feel some urgency.
100%. Yeah. I mean, again, I wish I could go back in time and understand what it felt like in past negotiations where it was like deals aren't going to get done. There was going to be lockouts. There was going to be time from the opening, or even missing spring training games and stuff like that. This feels like it's just like, yes, it's a negotiation. Yes, they're kind of in a jam. They're jammed up right here in terms of negotiating, and they're far away from each other on some of these main issues. But I don't know. It just doesn't. It feels more like posturing, and they are going to start to talk a little bit more seriously and get something done sooner than later. That's just what it feels like to me. However, it still doesn't feel good that they are so far away, and we are so close to the date that it needs to get done before opening day. I don't know what. I mean, do you agree with that? Like, this feels like it's going to happen. I don't know.
I'm still going to stay steadfast and positive, as annoying as it sounds. Now, I don't want to move the goalpost either, right? I don't want to say, oh, well, 150 games is better than no games. Like, no. I'm expecting 162 games, period, end of story. And I expect both sides to figure it out. We're not going to accept 150 games because that's a failure on both sides. I'm not going to put it on one or the other. I know the players are going to say, oh, they didn't come to the bargaining table. And this isn't how negotiations work in that it's supposed to be polite. It's going to get ugly, and it's ugly right now, and that's what people are frustrated with. I am expecting 162 games on March 31st. Am I going to be wrong in the world, come knocking on my door like, you were wrong? Okay, whatever. I'm still going to sit here and hope that it's going to happen. And even Rob Manfred agrees, saying, quote, missing games would be disastrous for our industry.
Dom, I want to get your take on that, though, because I agree with Rob Manfred's take on that. Do you think it would be disastrous if they played, say, 160, right? They're 2 games short, or what? Do you think that fans would not show up? I remember the strike-shortened season, or after the strike-shortened season, they finally came to a deal. I mean, fans, I remember that very, very well. You're too young to remember exactly what that.
I was literally born in 1994, in October of 1994. I am a strike baby.
It was ugly. It was absolutely ugly, and it took guys like Cal Ripken Jr. to spend 2 hours after every single game to sign autographs in order to get the fan base back into the stadium, because guys like that were stewards of the game and they understood the importance of stuff like that. But I think it would be disastrous. I want to know your take. Would 155? Would people just totally boycott baseball? I don't know.
I don't think they'll boycott it. Like, I personally want 162. Are people going to be okay with 150, 155? Yeah, probably. But my thought with this is the reason why it's especially disastrous for the industry. I'm sick of the negativity around baseball. I've said this before, but diehard baseball fans are frustrated with baseball. Aside from lockout stuff, pace of the game, shifts, strike zone, the DH is a hot topic even. There's a lot of things that a lot of actual diehard baseball fans are dissatisfied with the game right now. If you give them another reason to hate you, they're not going to come back. Furthermore, baseball is up against it right now, meaning they are fringe third most popular sport in America right now, and that's pushing it, quite frankly. That's really pushing it because NFL is still dominant, as we saw yesterday. NBA is right there, and I look at college football as really being the true number 3. I'd put college football ahead of MLB, obviously. If you want to say, oh, that's college, that's not professional, it shouldn't count. They're making money now, man. They've been making money for a long time. So that's where I fear with baseball right now, and even then you throw in college basketball as we're about to head into March Madness. Baseball is going to get lost to the shuffle if it comes out on March 5th. We have not come to a deal. Opening day is officially delayed, and then you lose all urgency. That's my biggest fear. If we come to March 5th and then this calendar says, oh, well, we're not going to make opening day, so we're going to sit on our hands for 2-3 weeks, and let things cool down. That's the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, and I sure hope as heck it doesn't happen.
Maybe there's a scenario, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, but maybe there's a scenario where let's say they get a deal done March 12th, okay, as, again, hypothetical. Now the pressure is on the players to say, okay, we can get ready. Let's rush and get ready for opening day. And so we'll play 162. I can't see that happening.
And you tell me this. It's not like these guys are sitting getting ready for spring training. Like, they're working out actively. They're getting ready. Yep. The thing is that the summer camp was 3 weeks in 2020. That was for a 60-game season. Last year, it was a bigger camp, obviously, but we had so many injuries. I think the players want a little bit more normalcy of a 4-week number, which seems to be agreed upon. So would you feel comfortable getting yourself ready? Let's say it's signed on March 10th. You have to report by March 12th, and you have to be ready for games in 19 days. Do you see that happening?
I could see that happening, Dom. I could see if it was a matter of, okay, we're going to play 155 and we're going to delay the season, or we're going to rush and get ready. I can see them doing that. So maybe, I'm just, again, playing devil's advocate here. I haven't read any of this, but maybe that deadline of, okay, we need 4 weeks to get ready is kind of putting pressure on the owners to come to the table with some sort of better deal, maybe, on the player side of things. So that could be pushed back, in my opinion. Again, I'm speculating here as a former player. I remember spring training was a grind and it was too long, and you remember that as well when you would show up. So I do think players can get ready. Obviously, pitchers are the biggest thing that they need to up their pitch counts, but nowadays, we saw it. I mean, limited pitch counts. I mean, they'll go 2-3 innings for a couple of starts and then just slowly up their pitch counts into end of April into May, and they'll be ready to go full strength. So I can see it happening.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the actual, topics of the economics and the proposal dipped into by Major League Baseball. We want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before with BetOnline, where the game starts. Non-quarterback throwing touchdown plus 1,400. Cha-ching. That was from last night. Happy about that. But also, our show is brought to you by Built Bar. Of course, here we are the Monday after the Super Bowl. Maybe you're not, your diet didn't do so hot yesterday. Built Bar can get you back on track, of course. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, yet it's covered in 100% real chocolate. And it's also got these amazing little puffs, a little marshmallow sweet treat that's also covered in 100% real chocolate. They've got so many incredible flavors for the puffs, too. They've got specific cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. These are going to be your new favorite. These sound amazing. Also, of course, the bars have mint brownie and coconut almond. There's a new flavor this month with white chocolate cookies and cream. You can try all these flavors at built.com, BUILT.com, promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off with built.com. We're also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain to find and stock all the parts your car will ever need. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. You can choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% markup from the same parts at a chain department store, or you can use Rock Auto, a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years with reliably low prices for every single customer. Go to rockauto.com right now to see all the parts available for your car or truck. And if you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that Vinny and Dom sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. Talking about the CBA now here. We have the special from 2 Fridays ago. If you want to go back and listen to that, it's still fairly relevant. A few things have tweaked from here and there, but it gives you a base definition of what to go off of. The big headlines off of this proposal from Saturday, Vinny, are a lot centered around the luxury tax. I'll break that down in a little bit. Minimum salary stuff, there's 2 proposals to go with that. The pre-arbitration pool, we don't spend much time on it because the MLB owners decided to only up their offer by $5 million, so they're still got an ocean between them, between $15 million and $100 million on that bonus pool. They agree in concept, just not in the number. And then there's some interesting lower stuff that we haven't really talked about yet as far as the draft goes and service time. I'll start with service time in that this is crazy with service time manipulation. Of course, Kris Bryant is the most famous example as of late of being held down in the minor leagues for 2 weeks of the season to get an extra year of control. Players have made it clear they want to get rid of that. And the owners are incentivizing teams, or trying to anyway, of having your top prospects break camp with the team. And this is how they would do it. You would get 2 draft picks for the year that your player in his first 3 years. So let's say, for instance, Corbin Burns, if this was his rookie year, for instance, winning the Cy Young Award, you would get 2 draft picks for having him on your roster this year. And you get those 2 picks within the first 3 years of the player's career. Meaning, whether it's Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, or MVP, if they finish in the top 3, you get 2 free draft picks as a reward for bringing them up to the big leagues. I was intrigued by this, but it doesn't explicitly say you have to have them on the opening day roster. That's where I worry on that.
Okay, and that one's confusing. I love the idea, and that one's confusing to me too, because does it incentivize the team? Because Kris Bryant winning the Rookie of the Year, he still could be delayed and stay in the minor leagues.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it doesn't say he has to make the opening day roster as of now. But let's say Kris Bryant goes out and 2 weeks later comes back. Gets the extra year under the current arbitration rules, and then goes and wins the MVP. You still get the 2 draft picks that way. That's where I'm cloudy on that. The previous proposal, though, I will say the owners had previously only offered 1 draft pick, and they upped it to 2.
Right. Yeah. No, it is a very intriguing idea, right? Because then it incentivizes teams. Again, hopefully they have to be on the opening day roster. But incentivizes teams to bring those guys up that are going to help your major league team and not allow you to manipulate their service time. I mean, Dom does a great job. You explained that on the other podcast,
briefly,
right?
Very briefly.
Yeah. But so everyone kind of understands that. So teams can kind of delay a player, even though they're ready, can delay a player's entrance into the major leagues by a couple of months, maybe even 3 months, just so that they can keep them an extra year, and that is a big source of contention for players. Under how the rules are written right now, I would do the same thing. If I can have an extra year of Kris Bryant and Corbin Burns and all these really talented players, I'm doing it, right? So they gotta somehow incentivize teams or change the rules.
The other tough thing that the owners have, as far as trying to negotiate, Kevin Mather, the former CEO of the Seattle Mariners, explicitly telling in a town hall with a local, I think it was a Lions club or something like that, but explicitly telling them, yeah, we're keeping Jared Kelenic down to keep an extra year for him. That hurts the owner's case of yeah, we know you're doing it on purpose. He's clearly ready kind of thing. I know the year didn't go in Jared's way. Shout out to Wisconsin. But that's just another example of players want to get rid of this. Players should be in the big leagues when they are ready to perform in the big leagues. On the other side of that, with service time, or as far as options go, as it currently stands, you get 3 option years, meaning you can be optioned as many times as the team wishes during that year. And then after 3 years of being optioned, that fourth year, if you're on the big league roster in spring training, they have to decide, are you going to release you or are you going to make the big league team? And then if they want to option you again, they have to DFA you. That's where you hear that term. You don't get optioned for a fourth time. You get DFA'd. Now, instead of unlimited number of options in a singular year, the MLB has proposed for having options to be limited to 5 per year, whereas the players want it to be 4. This is intriguing. As a guy that has been optioned, Vinny, I want to ask you, like, what's this process like, and what are these days like?
Yeah, so you get shuttled, and thankfully I didn't get shuttled back and, well, I guess maybe unthankfully. I'd like to have been shuttled back and forth to the big leagues a little bit more. I actually got optioned back down and then usually called back up in September. But yeah, I mean, it is it's a travel day. It's you're on one team one day and you're on your AAA team the next day, or vice versa, AAA to big leagues, and so it takes some adjusting. You're never really in a rhythm of being on a team for one thing, and then you're always kind of taken out of your rhythm in terms of how you're performing. So I mean, baseball is a game of routines, and so you want to be in the same routine, you want to be in the same place, you want to be with the same group of guys, and so you can perform. I mean, we're human beings, so it definitely does take you out of that routine. Now, I read that a guy like Louis Head was optioned 12 times back and forth to the major leagues down to AAA in Durham for the Tampa Bay Rays this last year. 12 times. I mean, that's insane.
It's what they do.
Yeah. I mean, it is the way the rules are written right now. Again, I would do the same thing, especially with relievers. And so I am 100% all in favor of eliminating that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because it's going to take a little bit more strategy in terms of how you're deploying these relievers. And you're just kind of using them to throw as hard as you can and rip off sliders, to get outs in the big leagues. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel like that takes a ton of strategy. Let's see if you can, construct your rosters on a day-to-day basis so that you have to kind of, strategize around how you're going to use these guys and in knowing that you can't just shuttle them back and forth.
And that's part of the reason they got rid of having a full 40-man roster available in September, or 35, I should say. And now it's 28 from 26. It's a lot more doable. Right. So it goes directly to your point. I could see this being implemented in the future. It's just agreeing on the number. 2 things with the draft before I break down the luxury tax, and we're still going to talk about DH in the National League. Draft and follow has been proposed to come back. This hasn't been around for a few years. If you're not familiar, draft and follow essentially kind of works like hockey's draft and follow system, where in baseball, you would get, in theory, 1 year of junior college baseball, and then your signing bonus can't be past $225,000 if the team decides to draft and follow you. This is interesting. There hasn't really happened a whole lot. It got rid of it because of the signing pool and having a larger pool of money to, hey, I just want to guarantee that you're coming, right, kind of thing. But now leverage can be given to the owners, like, yeah, we'll think about watching you for a little bit longer. We don't know if you're ready yet. And then you figure out with junior college, given you could go back into the draft the following year if the team decides not to sign you, or you can go on to Division I or wherever you decide to go. I thought that was a really, really interesting little quip that may or may not be included.
Yeah, so this draft and follow system is an intriguing idea. I don't quite understand why they're bringing it back. So you can sign a player for $225,000. So it's very similar to the way that the system was run in the past. So you're basically under the team that drafts you has rights to you for a full year, but you can go and develop at a junior college. So I'm trying to think. So with a 40-round draft now, or is it? With a 20-round draft now, correct? It's still 20. Every single draft pick is valuable at this point. So in the past, a 40 or a 50-round draft pick, or even before that, it was unlimited amount. Mike Piazza was drafted in the 67th round. Teams would just keep drafting and keep drafting. But now with a 20-round draft pick, I do think maybe this is a more intriguing idea than I first thought, because every draft pick is very, very valuable. So you're not going to want to just kind of waste a draft pick on some total lottery ticket pick that is going to go to a JUCO and you can draft and follow and see all of a sudden if he's throwing 20 miles an hour, or 10 miles an hour harder with his fastball. So this is an interesting idea. You're going to want to covet those draft picks, and some of these draft and follows might be a little bit stronger lottery tickets than in the past. So I'd like to see how this plays out.
Yeah, Draft and Follow hasn't been around since 2007. I just want to throw you one quick curveball before I get to the next topic with draft physicals. Imagine if you could trade draft picks in Major League Baseball. I just don't understand why we're the only sport that you don't trade draft picks if we want to make them so valuable.
Great point. I think it would make it very, very interesting. Is it just too complicated? I don't know.
I would think it's because competitive balance, or they would fear that the Yankees and the Dodgers would just trade. But then I look at the Dodgers having the best farm system right now. I don't know. I feel like that could solve a lot of problems by having draft picks being able to trade, because then you could physically look, and I think the players would worry about tanking, but then you could look at the Orioles and the Pirates of the world of saying, well, they're tanking, but they've got 6 picks in the first 100, like the Diamondbacks did a couple of years ago, thanks to competitive balance with sandwich picks. I don't know. That's just my thought.
And
that's just a quick thing.
Yeah, you can turn your system around a lot quicker. You can turn, you can make that rebuild a lot shorter.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I do think that that's an interesting. And plus, here's the other thing. Teams are this. Okay, so I'm just gonna say this. Teams do not trade like their guys that they know are going to be really, really good, right? They just don't do it. Like you'll see the Brewers, I don't think are going to trade Bryce Terang. There's a certain number, Garrett Mitchell, there's a certain number of guys that are untouchable. And so if you trade draft picks, you're kind of leveling the playing field a little bit with some of the rebuilding teams that they now have a little bit easier time to rebuild. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, and to be clear, that is not in the CBA. That's never come up. That's not happening imminently. It's just a suggestion from Commissioner Dom. Quick thing about this has to do with Kamal Rocker, our last thing on the draft that's proposed from Saturday's proposal, that you can't have a post-draft physical then have the bonus, the signing bonus, be worth less than 75% of the slot value. So this is what happened with Kamal Rocker. I didn't see specific number signs of what he was offered by the Mets last year. If you're not familiar, Kamal Rocker was one of the top pitchers in the nation for Vanderbilt, pitched in the College World Series. There was worries about his arm, but he did pre-draft physicals. He went through all the medicals, and then the Mets selected him, and they decided to lowball him based on a post-draft physical. This would make it illegal to do that by anything less than 75%.
I like it. I mean, I remember R.A. Dickey. You reminded me off camera of, in what year it was, 1996, where he was on Team USA, cover of Baseball America. After he was drafted by the Texas Rangers in the first round, his arm was kind of hanging a little bit weird in the picture. This is a true story. His arm was kind of hanging and kind of bent in a little bit weird position, and the Rangers said, well, we want an MRI on that elbow. Turns out he did not have a UCL ligament. And so R.A. Dickey, if people remember, threw 96 miles an hour in college. He was a traditional pitcher with nasty off-speed stuff, and he had to turn himself into a knuckleball pitcher, and that's how that whole story came about. But they then lowballed him and gave him $100,000, take it or leave it, and so he had to take it. So I think that this is an interesting one, right? If you draft a player, you are on the hook for 75% of his value.
So for that pick sliding bonus, yes.
Yeah.
For the slot value.
For the slot value. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, I agree. Quickly on luxury tax before we get to designated hitters. I won't spend too much time on this because there's a lot of numbers and it's tough on a podcast. But basically, not much movement as far as increasing the luxury tax threshold from the owners. They want the next 3 years to be $214 million, which is a $4 million increase from last year, and then to $216 and to $220 for the final 2 years of the CBA. The reason why not only is that going to get rejected, those numbers from the MLBPA, but the penalties increase. So even if you go over by a little bit more, you're going to be penalized more than you were last year, which is further desensitizing, going for it and paying. So, for instance, the Dodgers had the biggest payroll last year, $262 million. They paid $32 million in taxes based on going over $210 million. They would be penalized even more next year based on the new thresholds of the percentage that you go over. It gets very complicated, but This is eyewash. Don't pay attention to the luxury tax thresholds of 50%, 75%, and 100%. It's making the penalty worse while clouding it by saying, oh, well, we increased the threshold. That's not going to stick.
So, yeah, this one, the players want the higher threshold so teams can kind of pay for guys. I want to know your thoughts on the smaller market teams being able to compete, right? So what's your thoughts on this whole thing, Dom? Because I don't really know. This gets really, really complicated, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing what small market teams and how they can be competitive with such a high luxury tax. What are your thoughts?
It's tough because I'm okay with a higher luxury tax. Baseball does not have a salary cap, nor does it have a salary floor. There are ways to develop and ways. Does it create an imbalance? Yes. Teams like the Brewers, teams like the Oakland A's, teams like the Tampa Bay Rays consistently are going to, try to get the most of what they can afford. But you look at the cities they play in, and it's a lot of this revenue sharing is based on ticket gate and rights and things like that. There's a lot of complicated things.
Right.
But with the qualifying offer now, taking away the draft pick compensation that's attached to losing a player to free agency that was offered a qualifying offer, in the long run is going to hurt small market teams, because this is where the owners fear. Yes, they've conceded by getting rid of the draft pick compensation because, people would argue, well, teams aren't going to sign a guy because they know they're going to lose a draft pick if he's going to get his, a free agency deal and get paid more. But from a small market perspective, it's like, well, I can't afford this guy. I knew I was never going to afford this guy. It's the Charlie Finley school of thought of like, hey, I know I'm not going to afford this guy. I need to get something back. I need to make sure I get mine. You look back at the days when he tried to trade Vida Blue and Joe Rudy and guys like that back in the 70s and Reggie Jackson and things like that. I need to get mine back. I need to get my money back. That's the ownership view of it for the small market teams. And I want to remind folks, Mark Atanasio is on the labor board as a small market representative for the owners committee. He is involved in these negotiations, and he is fighting for Milwaukee and small owners. He just had a $100 million payroll, and it's one of the highest payrolls ever in Brewers history last year. It's going to be even higher next year. So these are the things that he's worrying about and the Brewers are worrying about. Their problems are very different than the Dodgers' problems, and that's where this gets really cloudy, and I could spend hours talking about this, but I don't want to.
Real quick, I just want to add, so what we talked about kind of before we started recording the show, I think if you take the draft pick compensation away from the team that's signing the free agent, if you take the penalty of losing the draft pick away from the bigger market teams being able to sign these guys, or any market team signing a free agent, I think, but then also giving the draft pick to the team that is losing the free agent, I think that isn't that the system that was in place in the past? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, but I like the idea of how the Oakland A's kind of skirted the system, where I like taking that idea away, where remember when Oakland would trade for all these big free agent guys right before they hit free agency, and then they would let them walk, and then they would get compensated. I like the fact that that's not on the table anymore. But I think that they should incentivize teams, or they should allow teams to get a draft pick, a comp B or comp A, whatever comp pick they should get from losing a free agent. I like that idea. If you're a big market team or a small market team, I don't know. I like that idea, but I don't like the idea of penalizing a team and taking a draft pick away if you sign a guy. I just don't, because it really does mess with the market of that player.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. It gets very complicated, but it's clear the draft pick associated to a qualifying offer seems to be gone. So that's been conceded by the owners, and that's how it impacts the Brewers. Before we talk about the future of the designated hitter in the National League, Vinny, we got to tell you about, of course, BetOnline, which is today's presenting sponsor, by the way. BetOnline, of course, has more odds, more props, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And, of course, football season is obviously over, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. March Madness right around the corner. From all the latest odds, totals, and player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline.net is the best spot for all your scores, podcasts, and news this season as well. And not just basketball, they've even got hockey, boxing, UFC odds, and even Olympic coverage and information as well. You can go to their website or on their mobile device as well to see all the trends in action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so the National League is officially having the designated hitter. A moment of silence for pitchers hitting. Eric Lauer, 2 bombs this year, never forget. And of course, I tweeted this, it blew up, that Brandon Woodruff is now at the center of baseball trivia, is that he is now, until Shohei Ohtani hits a home run in the postseason, but he's his own category. Brandon Woodruff is the last pitcher, traditional National League pitcher, to hit a home run in a postseason game. So, shout out to that. But it's gone. It's over. It's done.
I like it. I will say I like it. We talked about this before. By the way, did you get like 130 retweets and stuff like that?
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Dude, I was like, whoa. But yeah, I like it. I'm sorry to say. I'm a traditionalist, I think. But can I still label myself a traditionalist if I'm good with the DH being implemented in the National League? I just like it. It adds offense. It protects pitchers. I actually was like, every time one of the Brewers' big three actually started running the bases down the line, I was like, stop, just walk.
Yes.
You know, like, it was like Corbin Burns pulls a hammy from running the bases, I'd be so mad, right?
Yep.
So,
well, Freddie, it wasn't. They say it was on the swing. But remember, he hurt his shoulder in St. Louis on a swing, on a bucket foot swing.
I think it was on the swing. The way that he swung the bat on that, and then. I mean, you can really, you can hurt yourself in the box without a doubt.
My boy Zach Gallen had a hairline fracture in his forearm from swinging at a curveball in the batting cage. Like, it's stupid. I'm glad it's done. I'm so glad it's done. But with that being said, we got a question about, hey, who should the Brewers go after for a designated hitter? We've talked about Kyle Schwarber in the past. I've got 4 candidates here, and I want to remind folks, it's going to be a big payroll next year by Brewers standards. Currently projected at $127 million, which is roughly $27 million more than this year. So it's going to be a bigger year, and as it stands right now, Yelich is obviously your highest paid player at $26 million, but then Lorenzo Cain's making $18 million next year. Josh Hader's projected to make about $10 million in arbitration this year, and then Colton Wong's next at $8.5 million. So as I list off these 4 names, you got to remember what you're dealing with average annual value. Okay, the 4 names that are listed as the top DH free agents available, whose markets just shot through the roof, by the way, with this announcement, now that all 30 teams want them, is Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Nelson Cruz, and Jorge Solaire. All very similar in age, aside from Cruz, who's 41. Castellanos, 30, Schwarber, 29, Solaire, 30. Annual value is going to be very interesting for the top 2 guys and how many years they want. Cruz could certainly be a one-off. Do you want to pay Nelson Cruz $15 million to go slug for a year? You know you're not going to play him defensively at all. He is solely your designated hitter. So that certainly comes with a cost. And then you got Jorge Solaire, whose price certainly shot up after what he did in the postseason. So I don't know if any of those 4 names stick out to you.
I'd sign Nelson Cruz. I mean, because it is the 1 year, $15 million. I would sign all those guys personally. I think Kyle. Okay, here's how I would kind of value these guys. I'd go Kyle Schwarber first. I think he's going to have. I've always loved Kyle Schwarber. Obviously, he's a Brewer killer. I mean, the guy's got immense talent. I thought he was a steal last year for $10 million. What was it, 1 year, $10 million? I thought that was an absolute steal. Obviously, he's going to get paid now. And he can play a little bit of outfield for you, right? So he can go out in the corner. He can also play first. He's your emergency catcher. So, I mean, he's
emphasis on emergency.
Yes. So, but I would sign, because it's a $15 million deal. It's 1 year. I would sign Nelson Cruz. You're not going to be tied up in a $100 million contract with, like you are going to be with Castellanos or Schwarber. So that's how I would value those guys. I would be hesitant to sign Jorge Solaire. I don't really trust it. I don't trust the player personally, like in terms of his want it to be great, right?
Big swing and miss too.
Yeah, and so that's how I kind of value those guys going forward. But I like Nelson Cruz. I played with Nelson Cruz in the Brewers system. I mean, he's a tremendous human being. He's a tremendous guy. He's a good friend. But besides that, I mean, he can still hit. He's ageless.
Yeah.
My goodness.
32 homers last year.
And let's think about, and I know we're getting long here, let's think about, like, who the Cardinals are going to sign. So are the Cardinals going to grab one of those guys? I mean, you almost might have to think about, like, matching whoever they sign. So I would think about Nelson Cruz personally.
Yeah. Nelson Cruz projected 1 year, $15 million, probably somewhere in that range. Castellanos is projected at 4 years, $64 million, so a $16 million annual value. Schwarber at 4 years, $60 million, so $1 million less per year. And then Jorge Solaire projected at 2 years, $18 million, so $9 million. His big flaw is a swing and miss. Not really great numbers aside from power, but he can play an outfield position.
Yeah.
He's the best outfielder of the four on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Castellanos is statistically the worst defensive outfielder in baseball. Schwarber, slightly below average. Cruz can't play the outfield, and then Solaire can play league average outfield. So that's where all this comes in. I like Cruz as well, but personally, I don't see the Brewers signing any of these four guys. They may try to figure it out with Vogelbach. They may try to figure it out with Keston Hiura. You know, the man without a position, Hiura. Doesn't have to force him at first base. He can just be the DH and just focus on hitting, which would certainly help him, I think, in the long run as well. So DH is coming, baby.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're actually going to sign anybody. But, yeah, the DH is coming, and I like it.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Quick programming note, no episode tomorrow. We're rescheduling things with our guest, so that will come to your feeds on Wednesday. It's a great guest. Can't wait for you guys to listen. We tease it on Thursday. Fantastic guest. A lot of things to come. So that'll be on Wednesday as our next episode. Thursday will be the finale of Throwback Thursday series, the top 1 and 2 games of the year. We know which those 2 games are, but which will be number 1, I guess, is the drama. And we get to relive it, so you're going to want to listen. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun, right, Vinny?
I can't wait. I love doing this show, and I wanted to reiterate what Dom tweeted out. Thank you very, very much for all the listens, all the, everyone subscribing, everyone tuning in, because we absolutely have a blast doing this show, and we are very, very grateful for everyone listening. So please continue to do so. If you've ever watched a YouTube video and you have an email address, just go make an account. It takes 2 minutes, and subscribe to us. You don't know how much that means to us. We really, really, really do appreciate it. Yeah. It's a new week. We're staying positive with the lockout, man. Let's go. We're getting there. It's getting warmer. Things are looking up out here in Milwaukee. So hope you have a great work week. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, to you, and Valentine's Day to you and Maggie, of course. I know you guys have a big night planned. Yep. Go tear up the town. Leave the kids with a babysitter, right? Yeah. We're gonna go to Sebastian's, great restaurant in Racine. If you guys have ever been, you need to go. Shout out. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, he's Vinny Rottino. I'm Dominic Cotronio. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday for our next episode. Until then, keep on swinging.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.